Welcome back. When we left last time, we were working on the veneer, so let's pick up where we left off. As you can see, about 20 minutes into it, I've started making some progress on it, and I found that as you get further down, especially in the center, it's a lot easier, and I think that's just because I don't think they were able to clamp it really good in the middle, and so it's just releasing. Of course, I've got a little more leverage pulling that down. Also, I puff a little steam, and I get that, just put a little moisture in it and some heat on that, and then just kind of like I say, take time. I've got some tunes going, some oldies, and just taking my time, and I keep my rag moist, and then just push down, and it's starting to come off a lot easier, as you can see, as you go down through here. And so you just, like I say, take your time, just keep working, and just push that down through there, and it'll come off. So I'm thinking about another 30 minutes I should have that off. Alright, I turned it on its side because it's hard for me to get to the floor sometimes. Anyway, I went ahead and put the cloth down and heated it up and let it sit there on the bottom there, and that helped a little bit. And this veneer is behind the trim itself, so I pulled it off, and there's the piece, basically in one piece. And we will save this for possible use later sometime down the road. May never use it, but there it is. It's kind of flimsy and rotten too. So anyway, what I plan on doing now, you can tell there's some streaks of it. I'll go back over it with my putty knife, and then some sandpaper, and clean that right off, and then we'll prep the surface. I'll put a little filler in there and prep this surface to get ready, and then we will look at our veneer, our replacement veneer, and get that squared up. And of course, I'm hoping that I've got, since this goes down in here, this end should be square on the roll. We're hoping, but hope is not a plan, remember that. But then the edge should be square, so we can use this square edge here and overshoot this end and this side. I've got 12 inches to play with. This is 10, so we overshoot it a little bit, and then after we've got to get it glued down and pressed down and all that good stuff, then we can come back and we can trim it and sand it and make it straight. And that's the plan. So there we go. And it took me 35 minutes, but I had a phone call and I had to go get some DI water for my iron too. So yeah, I said 20. It took me 35, so that wasn't too bad. All right, now I've got to clean the iron up before I get killed. Okay. I've removed all the veneer, and I took 100 grit paper, sandpaper, and took down all the little pieces and everything that that I didn't get, and the glue and what have you, and I've wiped it down. Now I'm going to go back with probably some 220 grit just to make it more fine, and then big thing is preparing the surface, because you want a good smooth surface to you don't need any bumps in it or anything like that, any ridges. So yeah, so your preparation time is just like painting or anything else. Your prep is as important as the act of doing it itself. So you want to make sure this surface is properly prepared. All right, I hit this with some 220 grit paper, sandpaper and wiped it all down. Now, this substrate, this piece is exactly 10 inches wide. So when I cut my veneer, I want it 10 1/4. So I plan on lining it up with this front and the top. Of course, this is going to be covered by this. It slides down in there, so we'll be okay. And then the top and the back side, it should be over about less than a quarter-ish or so. And then the top will do the same thing. And then we can, after we've glued it all down, we can come back and we can trim it and sand it and make it flush with the top and the back. I'd say the top may be a little bit more critical than the back, but we want both of them. We want them all to be square looking. I had to cut 6 inches off of here because there was a piece about this long had a bad place in the bottom of it, so had to do that. So what I'm going to do is I've pushed this, I've squared it off down at the bottom, and so now I am going to line that line up, and then I'm going to make a mark at the end a little bit higher than I want, just to get it cut off, so then I can work on this side is cutting it 10 1/4 inches to get it lined up. Okay, we've got this fitted. Now we've got to cut this off just a little bit right there. I'm going to cut that 10 1/4 inches all the way up that side there. Excuse the air conditioning going, but it's getting a little warm in here. Okay, I've trimmed this a little bit over, and I've lined it up down the groove, and I've got a little bit over the top also. So we will be able to trim that, sand that off. So there's what the grain's going to look like. And there you go. I have got this surface prepped, and what I plan on doing now is I've got me a piece of plywood cut to fit, some clamps, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my glue, spread it with this very thin, and then I am going to put the veneer down, and then I'm going to use rollers, roll it out. Once I get it the way I want it, then I'll put the plywood on it, and then clamp it, and we'll let it set. Hopefully we'll get all the bubbles out of it, and get a good veneer side that's good and smooth, and then we'll start working about refinishing it. Okay, quickly I've got to put this veneer on. This glue is drying up really quick. Okay, I've got that down now. There is just a sliver of overhang on this side, and I plan on using some sandpaper to edge that up and make that groove the way I want it, and then we'll trim this outer edge right here. But I've put this down and smoothed it out the best I can, and I'm rolling it out, getting all the air out as possible, and then I'm going to clamp it down and let her set for a day or so. And the reason I think my glue was drying, I was noticing there is a weather alert out right now for extreme fire conditions. The humidity is less than 25% today. So that's probably why my glue went drying real quick. So I had to hurry. I didn't get to shoot much of the prepared surface, but I believe that's going to be fine. And so I'm going to clamp that down and let her sit for a while. I will pump you up. To get this edge here, I didn't have long enough clamps to get in there, so I've just used some dumbbells and the clamps down this side here. I've got a total of 90 pounds. I hope the cabinet holds it up. So that should hold it down. The wind's not going to blow it off for sure. But we'll just let it dry and see where we go from there. I have put the veneer on, got it glued, and have got it kind of trimmed and sanded, shaped up a little bit, done a little filling there, not on the but on the substrate. And I have taken a sample of this veneer and stained it gunstock. Almost said woodstock. I'm telling my age now. But as you can see, and we'll compare it to the top. Of course, the camera does almost never does justice to the wood. But you can see, of course, I'm going to touch this up. So I think this is going to match up really well. However, looking at this side, let's look at the other side and see about patching it. I'm going to have to patch that, and it looks like somebody has, I don't know, it's kind of got blotches in it, but I can patch that. But I think I'm going to go ahead and just take this side off and replace it to kind of halfway match the other side. What do you think about that? I went ahead and replaced the other side of the veneer. I just took it off and did the same process and glued it on, and I've trimmed it, and so I'm going to be doing some touch-up, as you can see, and I'll give you a better view of this. I went ahead and took the rings off the top, did a little light sanding up there, added a little bit of stain on that, and I've got some touch-up that I'll show you down the front where someone has sprayed, and I think it was vandalism. I think it was just kids. I've actually located the lady that this originally belonged to, and it belonged to her like her granddaddy, and I think her brothers beat the glass out and sprayed stuff all over it, and that's the reason I've got so many stains and things to take care of. Of course, every top of these have a flower pot mark or a coffee mark, and sometimes cigarette burns. So if you've dealt with these any length of time, you'll run into those. But I'll show you how I'm going to address some of those here shortly. But let me spin this around and we'll look and see how the color scheme's going to go. I believe I've got to talk to my son-in-law and daughter to see if it's okay, but I think they're going to leave it up to me. But I'll show you where I'm going with this. As you can see, I just spruced it up a little bit, and the top may not be perfect. Still have some lighter places in here, but I think we're just going to have to live with that. At least there's no major rings or anything, so we'll just leave it like that because it will show its age. I've got to touch some things up. I believe I'm going to go with this part here as a much darker. It's already darker than the rest of it, seemed like. Well, actually it's the same color, basic color anyway, but I'm thinking about going with a deep or dark red mahogany that's kind of really dark. I think these grills will be the same thing, and I think the base will be the same, and I'm going to bring these down as dark. And one good thing about toners, lacquer toners, you can take them right off. So that's what it's looking like so far. I'm hoping to start working on the electronic part shortly. Oh yeah, somewhere along in here somebody sprayed something and it just ran down, and I think you can see this. Get the light where you can see it. It's just one streak and actually goes down all the way down there. This will be covered with dark, so I'm not really concerned about this part of it, but you can see that one little streak. I'm gonna see if I can't put some dyes, these pins that will dye that, and maybe take that out. Of course, I've got to touch where I've done some patching, the light spots, so I don't think that's going to be an issue, but should be able to take it. But the cabinet's in pretty decent shape. I haven't had to glue anything other than the new veneer on there. This one, this side is a little bit lighter than this side over here, so I think I can get by with taking one of these markers and going across here and then wiping it off almost immediately and make it a little bit darker, and taking that stripe out of there. Okay, I put some stain on the sides and touched up a few more areas. My son-in-law has decided to keep it this color, so I have some dark mahogany or brown mahogany that I may do the base with just to cover up the scuffs on it. And the other side, I really like this side. It's got a lot of grain, a lot of texture in it. All right, now to just let those stains dry a little bit, and then we'll figure out where we're going from here. Okay, one of the things I'm going to do is these feet on the bottom, I pried them up, and as you can see, all they are is metal that has been stamped into the wood. What I plan on doing is going back with some plastic like this, and if you'll notice the indentation, I believe I can put some felt, those stick-on felt dots that will help protect the floors in my daughter's house. I think she might appreciate that. I pre-drilled the hole and then took a rubber hammer and tapped it up in there, and I think I can put that on there, some felt on there, and I think it'll be just fine. I have applied a coating of clear lacquer on this new veneer, and when you go to seal wood, you'll get all sorts of explanations and stuff like that, and this is what works for me. The existing wood that has been there for 86 years and has had several coats of stains and lacquers on it and sanding is sealed. This is new veneer, which means that the wood grains were still open. And then I applied the stain, and of course I sanded it, and then I sanded it again. I sanded it a couple of 3 times before I even put the stain on to make sure I had a good smooth surface so the stain would take evenly. And then after I put the stain, it dried. I sanded it again and wiped it down. So then I put this clear lacquer on there. Now the fibers are going to be standing up like this, and so the lacquer comes inside and coats in between and coats on, of the fibers, the small fibers. Well, I'm going to go back and sand those off so that hopefully we'll get a smoother surface. And I'll do this a couple of 3 times. Now, you can just put lacquer and just keep putting lacquer and keep putting lacquer on without sanding it, and you will eventually get to where you want, but because you're going to fill in all those cracks. But by it being new, soft veneer, I'll sand those little fibers off, maybe put 2 or 3 coats like this before I get ready to do the rest of the cabinet. And basically making the surface as smooth as possible to take the lacquer and be even all over. Maybe I can demonstrate. As you can see, the pores are still kind of open, and when I come right here and I sand it, look, I don't know, I'm not getting a good, let me sand this other. As you can see, it's kind of still uneven. But let me sand it and show you. I have applied 1 coat of semi-gloss lacquer on the cabinet. Now this is the 2nd coat on this side in between sandings, and it's looking fairly smooth. I think it's going to be just fine and dandy. Just documentation, I'm setting at 35% humidity, and so everything seems to be drying really well. Probably hit this with either some burlap, or I don't know if I'm going to use sandpaper, but I may sand it with some very light sandpaper. But just giving you an update. Get it down. I put toner, dark walnut, no, dark brown mahogany on the bottom, like I said, and that is what it's looking like right now. Another coat of lacquer on the cabinet, and I'm getting fairly close. Maybe 1 more coat, because I don't want it, I want it to look old but clean. And I don't want it to look like it just came out of a store. So that's where we're at on this. Okay, I think I ended up putting another coat or 2 on the cabinet before I was totally done with it. But we're going to wrap this part up, and you'll see the finished product probably in the next couple. I don't think the next one, I think the next one will be on the electronic part of it. We'll start working on it now that we've got the cabinet straightened. As I said earlier, a lot of this has been recorded a lot earlier. I wanted to do the cabinet in the early spring, which I did, and so that's the reason for the low humidity. I don't think anybody's experiencing any low humidity right now. So that's going to do it for now. So from Larry, from the hills of Tennessee, thanks for watching.